How are you? Good to see you. For the folks that don't know you, give us the 30-second introduction to who you are and what your superpower is, what your business superpower is.
Funny you ask. So my name is Aaron Hurd. I'm an executive maps coach, been an executive maps coach or been a maps coach for about 7 years. Before that, I've been an agent for 15 years. Successful as a solo agent, though partnered with an individual and really skyrocketed my business. I was a buyer's agent. I sold 107 houses in 1 year as a buyer's agent. Diana Kokoska caught wind, forced me to become a coach to help people do this. And in that journey, I've done very successfully, helped a lot of people achieve their really, really big goals. I today coach and buyer's agents that are on pace for nearly 300 units in a year. Jen Davis, I coached her to her stardom as being one of the top buyer's agents in the country. Also, I was the expansion director for an organization, and I helped out build out one of the largest expansion teams in the country, putting us in 96 locations, 167 agents, sold a couple thousand houses in a year. About 4 years ago, I decided to redevelop and rebuild our sales organization, branched off, made my own team. And today we're in, I think, 6 locations, half a dozen agent partners. We're doing pretty well.
Super. Yeah. What did you learn from those transitions? So go ahead.
Superpower. I like to believe that I help to relieve complicated things. I like to simplify complicated issues and realize what actions can get put in front of people to achieve their goals better than most.
Did you learn how to do that, or is that something you always had?
That's a great question. I feel like Diana imparted a lot of that, and Tony, her husband, imparted a lot of that skill in my life, though I also believe that there is some of that in my DNA of just being relentless and being, a driver towards winning at all costs. Right. And so when you're committed to winning, no matter what, there's something in your brain that says, well, that's not working. What are the options? And let's get back into the mix quickly without putting too much time and thought and energy into it, so we can go and try again. Like my business partner Wallace here, I have failed more than most people have ever even considered failing. Like, we have failed at so many things, but the pivot time, the time that we turn around and get back going is exponentially faster than where I see most average producers.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, it's just interesting. I think the ability to act quickly began with clarity around a goal. That was what I heard, and what you said was like relentlessness is, well, relentless in pursuit of what? Mm-hmm. If you're not clear about what you're trying to pursue, it's difficult to act relentlessly.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about we were joking and laughing around the Ironman activity. This was a very clear-cut, defined goal, and a very clear-cut, defined timeline, and a very clear-cut expectation of what you need to do to achieve that, or to finish, or to cross that finish line. And now it's like, okay, who do I need to show up as to ensure that when I get to this point, I'm able to accomplish that feat?
To be the person who does it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And if I choose to behave not as that person for this extended period of time, the odds of me showing up and being able to be that person are slim to none. So let's get to action.
It is interesting how often we struggle with that in business, right? That clarity around this is the Iron Man moment. This is what we're trying to get to. Yeah. But we struggle to get clarity around that.
Yeah. My business partner in the past, he says, "What's your goal?" And I said, "Well, I want to make $1 million, right, on a team." And he's like, "That's amazing. So tell me what needs to happen for us to get there." And so basically explored the path and the math and said, okay, I need our company, based on my compensation and my role as leading the charge, needs to sell 2,000 houses in 1 year. Now, my leader said, great. So by when, what year can we do that in? He didn't, go, oh, who's going to sell 2,000 houses in a year? Yeah. Like, By the way, at that time, we were selling like 300 houses. So, it's a really big jump. And when you look at it and you go, forget of like what's possible. This is what needs to get done for me to win. So by when, like, all right, well, I think in some sense of reality, I said, within 3 years, we should be able to do that based on these growth metrics. And sure enough, it was 3 years we were there.
Yeah. One of the things so we're just going down a little bunny trail here, but I appreciate this. One of the things that I remember Mark Davis saying from stage that I pushed back against, he made the comment one time, and he got in trouble with Mo because he used a bad word, but he said, there is no finish line, right? There is no finish line. We just keep going. And I appreciated the idea behind creating energy and momentum in everything that you do. I also disagreed with the view that we just keep running. The power of the finish line is that we know then when to stop. We know how to pace our effort. We know what the target is. We also then know clearly when we're done and when we're not done. If there is no finish line, I could be running this way and feel like I'm doing the right thing. That's running enthusiastically in the wrong direction. So
I understand it, and it's a little airy-fairy for me. Same thing. I know I'm passionately, I just do this, and this is what shows up in my life. That's great. Good for you. The reality is, I need to see a light at the end of the tunnel, because there are some light at the end of the tunnel. There's some dark days, and I need to know, how much more do I need to dig in on this tunnel before I'm going to break through and have this sense of achievement and know that what I've been working towards has been realized, and I could celebrate that. Now, it's a milestone marker in our overall journey. So now that you've done this, what's next? Right. We're not going to sit and celebrate our successes for the next year and be like, yeah, I did that. Woo. And we don't do anything else. And now what do we do?
Yeah. You need the ability to celebrate, right? I mean, we learn as much from evaluating where we've come from, the wins, as we do from, beating ourselves up about where we need to go. Yeah. Okay, so then let's go to the question. And I had sent Aaron a couple questions in advance, and the first one was, what are the characteristics, if the goal is to build a world-class sales team and world-class sales business, what are the characteristics of world-class sales people? Is that relentlessness one of the things you would see?
No, I don't think so, actually.
Okay.
It's interesting. I think relentless, helps a lot of people stay committed to an end result, though I think it's more discipline than anything.
Discipline
has little to do with the relentlessness. It's about the discipline to the daily movement on the key performance indicators, regardless of how they feel about it.
Okay.
Right. Because there's so many days that we wake up and we go, I've got all these repair negotiations. I've got this client that just changed their mind and terminated this deal, and I got to shut down that listing. And then I've got an agent, potentially leaving our team and now, do I want to go lead generate? Do I want to go find another client when I'm dealing with all this chaos? And the vast majority are like, oh, hell no. I don't want anything to do with that. It's all about just putting the fires out and managing the book of business. And yet the most successful, and again, I mean, you and I both have had the luxury of coaching some of the most successful people in our industry. The most successful people stay highly, highly disciplined and committed to the business plan that was established at the beginning of the year with the key performance indicators and the non-negotiables. I don't want to overly simplify it. And
can you say that one more time?
Say it again. I was going to say, that's a mic drop moment, Aaron. Say that again.
Yeah. Okay, great. Put me on the spot.
That's right.
the best of the best. They stay focused on what they felt was important, the key performance indicators, the KPIs, the key performance indicators. every single day. They're disciplined on that, regardless of how they feel. Every day they move that needle forward in their business. That's it. Now, I know, easier said than done. I get it. There's a lot of discipline in saying no. It takes a lot of discipline. And you guys got to remember, no is a full sentence. You don't have to explain or justify your no's. Get on your path and get to work executing your targeted metrics. And if people are coming in trying to take that away from you, you just say, no. That's what the best do, time and time again.
Stay disciplined on the actions that were built out of your KPIs.
Yeah, I mean, at the beginning of the year or at the nearing the end of Q4, middle of Q4, we typically establish what are we going to end this year with, and what is our targeted metric? What is our focus for next year, right? I mean, it's the finish line is approaching. We know we're going to finish this year. We will or won't hit our ideal goal, right? If you're in a foot race, you might have said, hey, I'm going to run this race and I'm going to finish in this time frame. And well, here you are, you see the finish line, but the clock shows you're 30 seconds or a minute or 30 minutes longer than what you expected. All right, well, you're still finishing the race, right? It is what it is. We're not going to not finish. And now you get to explore, okay, what are we going to do now? And we establish, here's our experience. And if we don't make any modifications, the ideas of us getting a bigger step in our business, more money or ease and elegance, like if nothing changes, nothing changes. So what are we going to commit to doing? What are the actionables that we are committed to accomplishing within this time frame that puts us in alignment with having these new numbers, these new resolves show up in your life? And when we identify that early on, now it's like, there's nothing more that we need to talk about. Well, here's the deal. In my world, in my coaching calls, you show up to our calls prepared, okay? We always look at numbers because numbers are the language of our business, and we are great business people. We're going to utilize numbers to fuel our conversation. And if you're off goal, we don't talk about anything except getting you back on goal. If you're on goal, we can literally talk about anything you want. That's okay. It's your call. It's your judgment on that. You're on goal. Hey, let's go, man. A lot of people are like, hey, what can I do to get better? Because this is hard to stay on goal, and that's okay. And yet, that's your call.
Can that be learned? This is sort of the second question. Well, first of all, let's back up. Are there any other skills that you've seen in your experience separate world-class performers other than that discipline, numeracy, and evaluation, that reevaluate against the data?
Yeah, I think in terms of the agent side and the performance side of things, I believe that the best of the best also have extreme clarity on what they do, and they can communicate that really well. So, they have this discipline of, I understand, here's what I need to do. I got to do my lead generation. I'm committed to this, with extreme clarity of, I have to have 20 voice-to-voice conversations and schedule 2 appointments 5 days a week, non-negotiable, right? Whatever their numbers are for their business modeling. But then they can also take their customers or take those conversations and communicate incredibly well of, here's what I do incredibly well as your listing specialist, as your listing partner, or as a real estate professional. My fiduciary responsibility is to accomplish X, Y, and Z. And I've got the recipe that you need to know about that causes my clients to have more success than the average bear. And if you want the best success results, you need to interview me. You're an idiot not to. Yeah. Right. The year that I sold 107 houses as a buyer specialist with no showing partners, little to no administrative support staff, like 98% of the buyers that came in and met with me signed an exclusive buyer broker agreement with me. Why? Because I literally thought that they were like mentally challenged if they chose not to. You
Yeah.
really like making bad decisions? Then yes, leave here without signing an agreement with me.
Go someplace. Yeah, that's awesome. Okay.
I'm convinced, and that's, I think, the peak performance are also convinced like they are the best. That maybe it's an ego thing, and I don't know if that's harmful by any means.
Mhm.
They're the best.
But they're the best. Yeah.
At least in here they are.
Yeah. And that sense of being the best, just thinking out loud here, I would say that is something that can be cultivated through practice. You may not actually be the most gifted athlete. You can be a better performer by practicing more than anybody else on the team.
I'm the best version of myself.
Correct. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think another thing also is that is a skill that can be taught through as simple as positive affirmations.
Yeah.
And it's building out habits of winning.
Yeah.
So Andy, he's over here on my screen. He's my director of operations, and he's a mentally strong individual, and he tells himself this all the time, right? And it's like, it's very hard to get somebody down that is in their own head saying, I'm better. There's nothing that can hurt this. Oh yeah, that sucked. And this is going to be fun to overcome next time. Like, it's brilliant what goes on in there. And I've had the opportunity to wake up with him and hear him in the morning like this. He speaks to himself. This is who he is. He shows up. I'm strong. I'm powerful today. This is going to be an amazing day. Like, yes.
Yeah.
That's a producer, right? Like they believe in themselves. You can learn that.
And you can learn that. Yeah, you can cultivate that. What about from the Rainmaker perspective, the team, what are the skills? What are the things that you've seen in working with world-class leaders of world-class teams? What are the skills that they share?
I think that the best leaders, they do the least work. I'll say that again, that the best do the least. And the reason I say that is because they're empowering their partners to behave in a manner to help them achieve their goals more than they are like being a seagull and micromanaging and floating over them. It's like inserting themselves in every step of their walk or handling the problems that are showing up. They're truly capable of empowering others to perform based on their job descriptions, based on their goals, based on their own commitments.
Interesting. Yeah, how many people have leverage and then take the job back?
You see that all the time, especially with your first executive assistant or your first VA. VAs, unfortunately, get a bad rap because oftentimes they're an entry-level first hire.
Yeah.
And when that happens, especially in a virtual world where they're not sitting right here and they can't literally take something from you, they're waiting for you to just give them explicit instructions and tasks. And they're just like sitting there for 8 hours a day going, now what, boss?
Exactly. What do I do? Yeah.
And then they get a cancellation 30, 60, 90 days later because it's like, you're too expensive and I don't get the value out of you.
Yeah. Exactly.
Got it.
Can that letting go be learned? Is that a skill that you can cultivate?
Yeah. The MREA actually teaches a lot about that. As a coach, as a practitioner of this, I've referenced this page a gajillion times, but it's page 166 in the MREA. And in there, you'll learn there's 10 principles for empowering people. And as some of the great leaders, when I first start coaching them, this is one of our big conversations where in an exercise I have them do is I literally say, hey, pull out your pen and paper. We're going old school here. I want you to open that book and I want you to write down the 10 principles for empowering people 10 different times right now. Write it down. Be like Bart Simpson on the chalkboard. I will not do this anymore. I will not do this anymore. I will not do this. Right. I
That's
want
right.
you to memorize this.
Memorize that.
Because the next opportunity you have to empower somebody, I want this filter to be running through your head to say, oh, this is your responsibility. And do you agree that this is your responsibility? And I'm going to empower you to make the decision. So what is it that you believe we could do versus me telling you what we could do, right? Walking through that filter.
Walking through that filter. Yeah.
It's
It
not
reminds
for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. It becomes easy though, much like anything. It's a habit that
Yep.
shows.
Yeah. Yeah. That what you just said, Aaron, reminded me of a quote from Masterminds this week, and I wish I could remember. It's in my notes somewhere. But they made the comment that you cannot simultaneously hold. Number one, you can't simultaneously hold two conflicting views. And in this case, the two conflicting views you cannot simultaneously hold are trust and control. You cannot simultaneously want control and have trust, because by definition, you're saying, I do not trust you to do this thing. I want to control it.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
Right.
Yeah, I like
So
that.
if you but you might be able to learn trust. You might be able to if you empower your people, if you follow the principles,
Mhm.
you might learn trust, which forces you to abandon control.
Yeah. There is a sense of control as a CEO, as a rainmaker in an organization that we need to impart on our team members, and that is accountability on tracking. Like you must, non-negotiable, track and measure the actions your partners believe are appropriate for them hitting their goals.
Mhm.
If you're not tracking, it's incredibly challenging. It's incredibly challenging, almost impossible, I'd say, to actually coach them, to actually serve them and help them achieve their goals in a more appropriate timeline, because you're going to allow them to water ski and tell you what they think they need to do or what direction they need to go in. But when the numbers show the gaps in contact to appointment scheduled and you're converting at like 1%, you can look at it and go, well, clearly we don't have an issue with you being a great real estate agent. We have an issue with you getting people from the phone to an appointment.
Good point. Yeah.
Right. So we have either a skill issue that we need to address, or it's a time management issue and we just need to make more calls. If you want to make more calls, then we can just lean in on that. But if you don't desire to make more calls, then we need to lean in on your skill set.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. But we can find the gaps through the tracking and measuring. And then we can, as leaders, direct the conversation where we know it needs to go, and then empower them to making the decisions that would appropriately get them to where they want to be.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And if they come up with some silly ideas that are airy-fairy, or we know we've been down this path before, to get back on goal, I'm going to text 5 more people today. Okay, that's not, give me another solution.
Yeah. Okay. How many 5s did you have in mind? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But even there, that's interesting. Like, you're still trusting the process. You're not trying to control the behavior. Yeah. Being numerate about your business is trusting that if you look at the data, if you evaluate information, you will get where you want to go. It's not controlling, but you're not controlling the behavior.
Right. Yeah, we know our targets, we know our finish lines, so to speak. Yeah. So it's like, hey, how many conversations do you as a business person need to make this week to be in alignment with hitting your goal this month, this quarter, this year? And are you committed to that action plan? Is there anything that's going to prevent you from doing it? And when you do that, what's your commitment towards appointments that you'll schedule? How many do you need to do this week? How many appointments do you need to go on? Right. And again, there's no judgment if you don't hit that finish line in the timeline that you want to be in. But if you're committed to your goal, you better look at what you need to start shifting or pivoting towards to get there.
Yeah. And just a little parenthetical aside, what you just did in 2 seconds was the consultative interview. I don't know if you even, I mean, that was it. What was your goal? How'd you do?
There you go. Oh yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel about it. What do you like? That's just consultative interview, also out of MREA, right? It's just there. It's just
Honestly,
not
I
a
think
comp.
that's right after the empowering people page. If
Yep,
I can speak my
168.
mind.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's right
That's it.
there.
It's right there. It is just right there.
So
All
it can
right.
be
So let's.
learned.
Yeah, yeah. That can be learned. Yeah. Okay. So let's change gears here a little bit in the time. Yeah, we're sort of bottom of the hour. Let's think about the current market that we're in right now. And just as a setup for everybody on the call. So what I asked Aaron were basically 4 questions, but it's a 2x2 box. If you're a sales agent on a team, what should you be doing right now? What shouldn't you be doing right now? And if you're a rainmaker or leading a sales team, what should you be doing right now? What shouldn't you be doing right now? So if we can, I'd just like to go through from your perspective those 4 things. Get to start wherever you want to, either on the agent side or the rainmaker side. But I'd be interested in hearing how you are coaching the teams and businesses you coach through the current environment we're in right now, April 2023.
Okay. So there hasn't been a whole lot of changes in full transparency. The changes that we've made or that we shifted from have gone away from buying leads and more developing better relationships. That's the only real modifications we've made to our direct conversations. And the reason for that is because across the country, we have seen purchase leads being diminishing value significantly. I mean, Zillow has gone way down. You get it, like all of them. The volume has come lower, the cost per lead is higher, and the convertibility of them has slowed to a crawl in many, many of these areas. So to eliminate an expense model that isn't giving an immediate return, it's all about the SOI database engagement. Now, again, nothing new. It's a little bit more purposeful engagement though. And what a lot of organizations have began pivoting towards is purposefully asking for business. Like truly, truly asking for business. So I coach an agent partner out of Springfield, Missouri, who has done 69 closed year to date as a buyer's agent. Okay. 69 units in the first quarter. And she has like 42 under contract, some crazy, just bananas, right? On pace, nearly 300 units, just blows my mind. Anyways, last week, her showing partner procured 10 direct referrals from the people that they're already doing business with. They're showing properties with or under contract with. Well, how do you do that? Well, he's out there showing 15, 20 different clients' houses every week. And literally before he's locking the door, he says, oh, by the way, if you know anybody else thinking about buying or selling a home, we would love your referrals and love to work with them. All you need to do is 3-way text us and we'll take it from there. Legitimately, just being purposeful on before I leave this house with this customer, I have to ask.
Yeah.
And out of 15 or 20 of those asks, legitimately got 10 introductions. Now, will those people transact in a timely manner? Who knows? But would you turn down 10 referral introductions?
Exactly. What was the cost of that lead acquisition? $0.
Yeah. We were already doing the business. Now you think about that, if they're on track for 300 units and let's say 50% of them gave them a referral. You're already doing the work. So those are some of the modifications that we've truly been making towards creating a higher volume of engagement and business opportunities. Outside of that, we have, people say double down on lead generation. Most people haven't doubled down, like truly doubled down. But there has been an increase in purposefulness. The people that were regularly doing 4 or 5 conversations consistently every day are now doing 10 or 11. Or even 8 or 9, those
something
12 or 13 are now doing 15 or 17, and they're getting like laser focused on what they want out of that relationship.
Which is what?
An appointment.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, so it's so funny. Anybody watch Moneyball before?
The
Moneyball, it's
the
about
the baseball movie.
coach. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I
yeah.
watched this just the other night, and it was just it's an amazing movie. And what I'm thinking about this is like, just get on base.
Yeah.
If we get on first base, we win.
Yeah.
Right. So whether you need to like bunt the ball or get hit and take a walk, like whatever it takes, get on base. And for us, getting on base is get an appointment, get face to face with these people and have a conversation with them, because when they're ready to transact, it's like a home run. They're going to call you and you're going to just walk around and be like, yep, I'm ready when you are.
Yeah.
So you have to have enough of those compound up, so then it feels like you have a lot showing up regularly. So it's just get an appointment. That's priority number one.
Which goes back to the conversation we had earlier about being disciplined enough around the KPIs.
Yes.
Disciplined enough to track, are we getting on base? Are we getting the appointment? I was super busy last week, Aaron. I went on 2 appointments. Well, you need 10.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
The 2 a day is what you need to be doing.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 2 a day.
Well, and that's where discipline and people's inability to say no shows up at a very high level, right? Because that's where it's like, I can't imagine going on 10 appointments a week on top of, servicing the transactions I have, on top of the expectation of lead generation to do it and all those things. Like, it's just, I have to show properties. It's chaos, right? Well, you got to learn how to control your schedule. It's your schedule, right? And if you treated your lead generation appointment as if you were inside of a listing appointment sitting in front of a seller right now, you wouldn't allow your cell phone to engage with you and take you away from that listing appointment, would you?
That's right. Yeah.
It's buzzing, it's there. Maybe you do, maybe you don't, and yet you're dead to the world in that listing appointment because nothing else matters except right here.
Yeah.
If you had that same exact mentality and you establish some ground rules for your time block and you just went laser focused in that one thing, everything else, it'll figure itself out. People will try to call you during that time block and call them back when you're done.
This is a sort of a weird analogy, but I think it makes sense. I read one time that if you actually looked at people's budgets, the way they allocate their money, roughly speaking, 10 to 20% of the actual dollars we spend go towards what you might call like actual survival.
Oh.
Like true, like needs.
Yeah.
Like we need
shelter, food,
shelter, clothing. And not only that, we need food, but we don't need filet mignon. We don't need 3 flavors of mushrooms.
I do.
You do. You're different. You're a high power athlete. You fuel differently, right? But like most of the way we spend our money is actually discretionary. Even those things that we think are vital, they're necessary. It's just an allocation of your dollars. And the same way you allocate your time, it's just as valuable.
Yeah, my business partner Sam Scott put in the chat. He says, "My goal is more important than your goal." And
that's right.
I teach this a lot. I say this a lot because the reality is when you're saying yes to helping somebody else, you're saying no to what you want in that moment, right? And if your goal is to make 20 contacts and schedule 2 appointments by 11 a.m. and somebody else is pulling you away from that and you're allowing that, you're basically saying that my goal is no longer that important.
Yeah.
Right? And you can't tolerate that. You have to be like, look, you tap me on the shoulder one more time, you're going to get bopped in the nose because I'm committed to hitting my goal. When I'm done with here, I'll help you.
Yeah.
There's no emergencies in real estate. We are just like conditioned for whatever reason to become firefighters and help everything like with spontaneity, disciplined with a freaking schedule that you believe in. Yeah. You truly believe that this schedule would allow you to live the quality of life that you want, that would allow you to have the income, the goals, and all that stuff, then do it. Follow it. right?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying go work 24/7. Look, I understand there's buyers that really want to be, showing properties late at night, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night, or on the weekends. And I do believe that there's exceptions to every single rule. So don't hear this as a hard and fast thing. And same with listing appointments. Like, I get it. People want to sell their home, and yet, they have a job, so they can't meet with you during your midday request. I don't know if that's entirely true. Like, if you had a toothache, you're going to call the dentist, and the dentist is going to run you through a process, right? And they're going to ask you a lot of questions. They're going to qualify you. They're going to find out what is urgent, what is important. Is it the onset of a toothache, or is this a full-fledged, you're infected, this is a bad deal? Like, is it emergency, right? And based on that, they're going to establish when they're available for you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You're still talking, so we can meet tomorrow at 3 or the next day at noon. Which would you prefer?
Which would you prefer? Yeah. Yeah. The dentist doesn't open your mouth and just start pulling teeth. Yeah.
Right. And they don't also make house calls at 8 o'clock at night just because you have to work today.
Yeah.
Right. Now, if you're Michael Jordan, they probably would, and they should, because that makes sense. It's a good business decision.
Okay.
But you have a disciplined schedule. So you say, look, and this is something really high top performers do, is like, my lead generation time block is this, and here's my commitment towards that time block. 20 contacts, 2 appointments. Like, that's my one thing. So not only am I just doing lead gen, I'm actually doing lead gen with a finish line, a targeted metric that I desire to achieve in that time block. And so it's like, watch out, world. I'm coming, because I have a goal to schedule X amount of appointments and talk to this many people in this very short period of time. So I got to go, right? All work fills the time that we allow it to be done within. So plug that in and be disciplined on executing that. Then there's follow-up. We have to follow up with the leads in our database, and it's a much shorter amount of allotment of time necessary than the lead generation and creation part. So you got 3 hours of lead gen, you might need 45 minutes of lead follow-up to appropriately touch all the people appropriately. Then you need to go on appointments. So what's your ideal schedule of appointment block? I mean, you got to eat and take care of yourself too. So don't go back to back hard and fast. 1 to 3 could be when you're on appointments. And that's listing appointments, buyer appointments, showing appointments, right? Walkthroughs, previews, whatever appointment's taking you out in the field and doing the work, it can be done within that time block if that's what you believe would be appropriate for your business. And then from 3 to 5 p.m. could be where you're doing negotiations of contracts, following up with all your file management, dealing with all the fires that are being there. If somebody calls you at 10 a.m. saying, I need to back out of this transaction, the difference between 10 a.m. and 3:30, nothing is going to change. So you just say, okay, I'll call you at 3:30 today, and we'll address how we're going to move you forward towards getting out of that transaction, if that's the direction we're going. But we don't need to stop everything we're doing to help that person solidify that right then and there.
Yeah.
Right? But then you have this 9 to 5 schedule that you're like, look, if I could live this life, I do my lead gen, I do my lead follow-up, I go on appointments, I negotiate my contracts, and then I go home. If that was your ideal schedule, then it's up to you to start like putting people in the schedule where it belongs. And if somebody's trying to get you out of that schedule, out of that routine, you got to try to fight to make it work back to your schedule. You control it. And again, if it's Michael Jordan, you might make the exception, but don't make the exception the rule.
Yeah. It's interesting, right? Every time, well, they needed me then. They needed me then. They needed me then. Okay, well, what if you actually just turn the tables?
Your family needs you now.
Your family needs you now. Correct. Yeah. I need this stuff. I need my time now. My family needs my priority needs my time now. If it's important to you, you will adjust.
I asked one of my partners the other day, I said, do you need money to pay your bills? They're like, yeah. It's like, okay, well, are the actions you're doing today going to pay you enough money in the next 90 days? Can you afford your lifestyle in 90 days based on the actions you're doing today.
Taking the day. Yeah.
When you really look at it like that, it's like, oh no.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you find future business today? It's really the question. Because if you didn't, then what are we doing? Tony DeCello imparted that on me a long time ago. He was one of the greatest of all time coaches. I mean, the man shared, he says, we do not stop to service today's business before we find future business. The only reason companies go out of business is because they stop looking for clients. So don't stop to service the business you already have before you find future business. Make that your mantra. I'm not saying go give bad service.
Yeah.
Set better expectations on your availability and what they're going to experience and all the other stuff that shows up with it.
Well, and I would say not even on the like a bad service piece. A lot of what we think we're doing is like the baker staring in the window of the oven. You're not going to affect the process. Your work is done.
Such a good analogy.
But
Absolutely.
if you just sit there and stare, I feel like I'm busy. I'm working. I'm making sure that the bread bakes. What the hell are you talking about? Isn't your energy into that system is you need to know when to take it out, and you might need to know how to maybe bread's not it, maybe like dress the cake or something. You might have a job to do at the end, but there are lots of moments in the middle of a real estate transaction where you have absolutely no influence over what happens next.
That's right. That's the business plan. And that's the key performance indicators that tell us when to go, when to, push, when to not push, that kind of stuff. All that. Yeah.
All right. So if you're coaching now, that's kind of covered everybody, but are there specific things maybe we talked about kind of keep doing it, keep focused on it, changing the nature of lead gen a little bit. But if you're looking at from the Rainmaker's perspective, the team perspective, maybe taking a step back in the market that we're in right now, other than redirecting some of our lead gen spend or moving away from that sort of bought leads model. Anything else that you're coaching Rainmakers to do more of or to stop doing right now?
Obviously contingent on their goals. So empowering their partners through holding them accountable towards tracking and measuring to hit their goals. That's a duh, right? So we have to lean in on that, though. Also, don't stop building a bench. Like the Rainmakers must understand that attrition in our industry is at an all-time high, and it's going to get radically different before it gets normal again. And so attrition, it might come out of the blue. People that you have in your world that are crushing life might decide that this sucks and I'm out. And you don't want to get stuck. So build a bench, keep looking for talent, keep opening conversations, even if you're not prepared to bring on another person in your world, engage in the conversations with them. So if there was a need in the future, you could always call back and be like, all right, I'm ready. But again, contingent
on the goals. But I think that is like the things will happen for reasons we cannot anticipate. And if we don't have a contingency, if we don't have a backup, regardless of the market, we can find ourselves suddenly given a job back that we didn't want to take back.
Yeah. And as you scale your business, like you get more than a couple of people, it just gets magnified or gets highlighted,
Yeah.
In Keller Williams, historically, 30% attrition has been a pretty normal and customary ebb and flow for market centers, right? And so they feel it because you get 100 people and you start seeing the churn. Though in a team where you have 3 people, you might still have 30%. It's just, it doesn't feel like it because it's like one person in a year moves out of your business. It's like, we always have reasons. They suck.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
But it gets magnified as you scale up, and don't be afraid of that. Just understand the realities within it. Of course, explore, hey, if we're seeing 30%, what can we do as an organization to influence that number to become a lower exchange so we have better retention long term. But again, these numbers allow us to it puts attention to where we need to put attention. If we have incredible retention rate, then why would we even talk about retention rates?
I want to open it up. What questions did we not ask? What questions does this group have for Aaron, or things we want to learn more about before we run out of time? Did you hear anything different? I guess, first of all, hear anything different from what you'd heard before? John, go. Yeah. Say, yeah.
Good stuff. Thank you for your time, Aaron. I think a lot of our struggles in many markets, maybe all of them, is a lack of listing inventory. Like, we're flush with buyers in my team, really struggling with listings. Phil and I talk about this regularly on our calls. Do you know of any mofers right now that are moving people? I'm not going to ask for the silver bullet. I know it doesn't exist to get people to sell their homes that are not going to, but maybe you can share a mofer that, that's working in some markets.
So I see it. Well, a couple of the big organizations have not let their foot off the gas on the golden letters. It's still working at a pretty good click. The timeline, though, from engagement to listing, or even if they list, they're like a private pocket listing or a make me move type of seller. It's creating that secondary vending machine for their team to be able to offer their buyer clients, right? So Caroline asked what a golden letter is. A golden letter is essentially a letter to homeowners that says, would you consider selling your house to a buyer client of mine? If you would, call me. It's a very, very simplistic model. Just, would you consider selling your home to one of my clients? Call or text me. And people raise their hand and say, well, I've been thinking about selling. If you have a buyer, tell me what they're thinking. And then that's where it starts the conversation. We catch them really early. And sphere of influence. John, the brain really likes specifics. And so when you get laser focused on what a great referral is for you and your organization right now, you'll increase your referral exchange. So for example, if you're looking for a $1 million property in the southeast location of this particular neighborhood, that is a 2-bedroom or a 4-bedroom home with at least an acre of beautifully landscaped grounds. When you call your SOI and you say, hey, just checking in, how you been? Great, blah, 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 blah. Hey, by the way, if you ever hear of anybody that has a home on the southeast area that's 2 stories, it's 4 more bedrooms, has $1 million with beautiful landscaped ground, please let me know, because I've got clients that are shopping and that would be the best thing you could do is help me. Then their RASs are going to open up, and it's amazing on what happens when you get clear on what it is you're looking for versus, hey, if you ever hear of anybody looking to sell, listing inventory is low and that'd be huge help to us. It's not specific enough.
Yeah. And John, one thing I'd add on that is even how Aaron said, if you know someone, you call them and get straight to the point of hey, who do you know that lives in this area that I could talk to, because they might know of a neighbor. Just keep pressing and getting super direct with the questions. It's that if word just gives that automatic response of, I'll keep you in mind. How's the kids? Everything else, right? It's that who question just makes all the difference. And I would be curious, even John, when you're calling your database now, what questions you're asking when it gets to the business side of things. You mind sharing that?
We don't have business questions. I mean, we do care calls basically. And
you're following the Ford model?
So yeah, I mean, I have my agents always follow the Ford or Frog model, whatever you want to call it, with all of our calls right now. And that's one of the notes I actually took earlier, is getting real specific with every conversation, going back to asking for referrals. I think until the middle of last summer, we didn't have to do it, right? And I think we just got to do it again. Everybody hates that who do you know that wants to buy, sell, or invest question. We didn't need to do that for a long time. And maybe we need to do that in a little bit different way, but start doing it again.
Yeah.
John, as an aside, that's exactly what Rachel and I talked about literally an hour ago. So it's perfect timing. Yeah. Perfect. Unintended perfect timing. Yeah. Sorry, Wallace, I cut you off. Go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, I built a huge business off of that, just who, looking to buy, sell, or invest. And, when I started kind of coaching agents, is where I've really kind of developed and seen what's working the best that I'm seeing is honestly not even doing care calls anymore. You're doing the call and pretty much starting it off with, hey, I could use your help. We have a lot of buyers right now looking for properties. Who do you know that's mentioned that they might want to sell their house in the next 3 to 9 months, 6 to 12 months, whatever, that I could reach out to? We might even already have a buyer for them, because now they're not only helping you, they're helping their friend, all the above. And like, I mean, we'll keep pressing. Okay, graduation's coming up. Anyone that maybe their last kid's going to be graduating. We work with a lot of sellers that, you know, they're trying to move and they've been waiting on that to happen. Like, keep pressing and asking those really, really good questions. And then we talk about their life and their kids and everything else. Yeah, we get the business part going like really first. And then you get to see if they're like, they might be in the middle of something. If they're ready to get off the phone, they'll get that point done. And they might not even care about asking, talking, doing all the small talk, you know?
I think it's really important what he starts there is he starts with the question of like, hey, I need your help. Can you help me? Because people naturally, we want to help other people. And starting with that, it almost removes their wall of defense of like, wait, he's asking me to help him out. How? How can I help Wallace out?
I need a care call now is basically what I turned it into. So,
Yeah.
When I do bold 100s, because I don't have time for the bullshit small talk, I start every one of those bold 100 calls with, hey, it's John. This is a quick business call. And that's my disarming mechanism. Back to the golden letter, if you want really quick, because we've been sending out some months between 500 and 1,000. We're working on refining our system. What's the callback number? Is it the agent's personal cell? Do you send them to the office? I mean, we're scaling here.
Yeah, no, the model supports you identify or create like a Google Voice, a centralized phone, and you basically create a pre-recording voicemail. You never answer the phone, and you say, thanks for calling our real estate team. If you received my letter, thank you. Please leave me your mailing address and the best time to call you back. And we 100% will be prepared and call you back with blah, 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 blah. Yeah, something like that. Then you
Awesome.
can even if they don't leave you a message, you see the number that called and you can call them back and say, hey, sorry, I missed your call. And you know it's because of that letter that went to that one location. So you can't, are you calling because you received one of my letters? Thank you. We're so excited you chose to call us. What was the address that you live in? Right. But if you can get the recording and then get it, you can then in advance be prepared for the call.
So Aaron, what I've got is by the way, in case anybody doubts the veracity of this, and you and I did not plan it, 512-270-8260. That is my Google Voice golden letter phone number. It's the only reason I have it. It shows up as a cell number on my app, my whatever contacts page. So if they've got that, it's connected to me. What I do with my assistant is have that Google voicemail automatically transcribed, right? It's transcribed to an email. Goes to my email address, that automatically goes to my VA. My VA then looks up the property address in the MLS on the tax record, sends it back to me so that before I call them back, it's, hey, Aaron, Philip Alderfer, just returning your call. I'm assuming you rang, it sounds like you rang about the letter I sent, and you're located at 1234 Main Street. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah, it's powerful. Yeah, but the callback, I mean, the purpose of the golden letter is to create leads, seller leads specifically. And we're still seeing in most marketplaces like a 2 to 3% callback engagement. And so it's still not like this profound number. You send out 1,000 letters getting, you know, a handful of calls, 2%, 3% of people calling you back. And then are those people right now ready, willing, and able to list, and all the percentages and all that stuff that's, you know, to be determined. So, but it's still a good model. It's driving seller lead. Yeah. And
Other
data.
questions? All of us are smarter than one of us. Who's got a question?
When you
Got a
say
minute
quick
left.
to decision,
Yeah, Candace, go.
quick to decision. So when we started kind of off with that, do you have some sort of timeline that you allocate towards this is working, not working to make that quick decision?
So
You
for
know, the ability to act quickly, what does that look like timing wise for you?
utilizing a 411 ensures that you're having a conversation weekly in regards to what you claimed was the priorities for the week prior. And if those priorities are met or aren't met, you can then determine what changes do I need to commit to the following week to move me and put me in alignment with having that target met. Now, that's on a business planning objective handling. When you have trauma show up in your life, a sale fail, or somebody fires you, have a 5-minute funeral and move on. Like and so it's very difficult to take in that and like hear that. But the reality is, go kick a can, swear whatever you need to do, hit something, and then get back to business and shake it off, because it doesn't serve you to keep that in your head of like, I could have, I should have, I did, I can't believe them. So the ability to just like compartmentalize it, throw it away, and then move on, in addition to understanding goal versus actual. Make sense? All right, it's the top of the hour. I do have another appointment.
I was going to say, Aaron, I'm going to let you go. I am grateful and thankful to you for you joining us today. Good
Pleasure.
luck on your next race.
Thanks for having me.
We'll see you on a column, buddy. Appreciate you.
Everybody.
See ya. Thanks,
Happy
everybody.
Easter, everybody.
Happy Easter, everybody. Bye.
Thank you.